And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Strategy Show, allegedly. Thursday, November 14th. I'm Josh Engleman, here to break down this illustrious one-game NBA slate. Rocking the DK bucket hat for this morning, trying to channel my inner Greg Ehrenberg, trying to grab some fun out of whatever it is the hell we've got to do for today. Basketball doesn't really exist. Yesterday was next level bonkers. I mean, I had a lineup that, like, if you just looked at it and didn't look at the contest, you'd be like, oh shit, that must have been great. And it finished like 370th. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. It's craziness. I mean, let's talk through what happened yesterday. So before we do anything, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow me on Twitter, all that kind of stuff. Let's bump this size up quite a bit. Giannis Antetokounmpo threatening a 100-point game. The claw, I wish, brother. Yeah, look. Let me shoot this lineup that I have onto the screen quickly. Just so we can talk about it. That's not what I wanted to do. Why would it change my window? That's dumb. There we go. So this is what I had yesterday. McCain, insanity. Low-owned Donovan Mitchell, 60 fantasy points. Awesome. Ron Holland, not the best value in the world. We'll take what we can get. Yabusele, fire. Goga at 6% ownership. Great. Beasley, 50. Giannis, 98. Towns, 71. That's what's below Beasley. Giannis and Towns. 317, 423 fantasy points. Didn't mean a damn thing. It's like, that's brutal. There's nothing, I mean, like, it's the same for everybody. Your chances of winning are your chances of winning. But, I mean, man, that's disconcerting to see something like that. It just didn't matter. It was 90,000 person contest, man. Like, if you aren't just immediately crushing it, 70 plus out of Cade, Towns, Wemby, LeBron, obviously not on the DK slate, and Giannis. I mean, Jalen Williams, 62. Center Jalen Williams, 62. Just crazy. I mean, Peyton Pritchard had 50. Klingon had 50. There were 17 guys that had 50 plus DK points yesterday. Now, some of those guys were in the late game, so it's not the same slate, but oh boy. Like, I had a decent Şengün stand last night. 46 fantasy points, 13, 11, and 6 and 5 stocks. And, like, that is actively a problem because of some of the other guys on the slate. Like, the scoring yesterday was massive. It's fun to see. I mean, like, the guys that went crazy are the guys you'd expect to go crazy. But 59, 14, 7, and 5 stocks for Giannis. 8 blocks for Donovan Klingon. Josh Okogie, 42 fantasy points in 28 minutes. Joval, 40 fantasy points in 22 minutes. Whew. That's just insanity. It's true insanity. You could play guys that had, like, good games, and they were terrible to have in your lineup. That is some massive, massive scoring. Let's see if we have anything up just yet. I know they're working on it right now. Okay, projections are up. So we're getting there. We're going to run some single lineup sims, and then we're going to get to stepping. We're very clearly not going to be here for the full hour. If you guys want to sign up at Stokastic, that's probably the easiest thing to talk about. There's a link in the description of the video. If you click that link, you'll end up going to Stokastic. Actually, let's pull up an incognito window. We only use those normally for adult activities, but in this case, you go to Stokastic, we got a deals section. A bunch of deals where if you want to sign up and get Stokastic sims for essentially no cost, you can do that. I mean, we've got everything is explained on the site. All of our sim tools, the post-contest sim tool, everything is here for you guys. And we have ways that you can get our sims for free. There's a link in the description. You can click it. You have to do 4 things at the top. Pick whichever promo you're looking for. Sign up using our offer. So click the button, make a deposit, and place a bet. Once you take a screenshot of your email and that first settled bet, you email support, and you'll get a month of our sims for whichever sport you want, no cost. So maybe you can play on pick'em sites and you have never signed up at Better. You can sign up at Better using this deal. They will give you a deposit match bonus up to $250, but it can be whatever their minimum deposit is if that's what you want to do. I don't know what it is. I'm guessing it's probably like $20, but I don't know that. So let's just say it's 20. You would deposit 20, they'd match it with 20. You'd now be on Better, and you'd get a month of what I would assume to be, if you're watching this show, the NBA core sims. It's really simple. You get basically like $100 value from us. You get bonuses from whichever site that you want to sign up for. And there are plenty of choices on the Sportsbook side and on the Pick'em side. You will definitely find something that will help you out here. And we've got plenty of advanced data on the back end that will help you once you get in the door. It's very easy, guys. Very easy. Let's see where we're at. We're getting there. We're getting there. Projections and ownership are up. And I just got the message from good old Rich. Ownership's running. Sim should be up in a minute. Perfect. So what's up? Any of you guys hit anything big? Kickstart, you were hot on my heels. Hot on my heels. So at the very least, we're going to be able to sim some lineups. So here we go. Projections are on the screen right now. This is our single lineup simulator, which is particularly important on a day like today because we can get our hands dirty. We can build a lineup on our own, simulate it, find out its ROI, its win rate, its cash rate. This is my favorite thing that we have on the DFS side, and it's not even close. If you play DFS, I assume the large majority of people are like, 1 or 2 or 3 lineup type people. They like to build it by hand. They like to dig in. This lets you do all of that, and it gives you the ability to get some advanced data with what you do. Before it was like, okay, you could use an optimizer. You could figure out what the top projected lineups are. But the top projection doesn't really have as much of a tie to just ROI in general. You're probably creating heavily duped lineups. You're really just generating more like cash type lineups. This will help you play these larger field contests. So let's build. Just to talk quickly about what this lovely 9 p.m. Dallas Mavericks Utah Jazz lineup looks like. Luka Doncic is probable. PJ Washington is doubtful. No Derek Lively on the injury report, though. For Utah, obviously no Taylor Hendricks. Walker Kessler is out once again. Everybody else that's out doesn't really matter. And Colin Sexton is available. So let's build some lineups. I'll build a couple on DraftKings. I'll build a couple on FanDuel. We're not going to be here for an hour. I can guarantee that. So let's see. What is the big contest on DraftKings for today? Just the standard issue fadeaway. I forget that it's Thursday for football. So 50K to first, 150 in prizes. If you guys can do the math, that is 1 divided by 3. I'm going to bump this up to a 35% to first. You can use 30 as well. It's not going to matter all that much. But now, it's time to figure out who we want to play. Now, you guys know, if you've watched any of my content before while I use this, I am the single lineup sim czar. Nobody does it better. It is my tool. I own this bad boy. So what we're going to do is build some lineups and find out how good we are. And if Bug Boy shows up, let him know. It ain't him. This is the guy. And it's really, to me, using this tool is really, really easy once you understand what you're trying to do. And what you're really trying to do is maximize fantasy points and minimize ownership as much as you possibly can. And then you'll start to find these levels where you can kind of tell like how much each point of ownership is worth. And you'll know what you need to do to adjust your lineup. Like once you build it and see the first result, it's very easy to figure out what the next switch is to improve that lineup if you can. So let's start with the first one. And I'm gonna throw it to chat to start. Let me know in chat. Just let it rip with answers. Who do you guys want me to start at captain with? You guys give me your suggestions. Laurie, Luca, Laurie, Lively. Okay. Collins. Okay. All right, we're like 2 apiece for everything. Avery Drake coming in with Collins. Where the hell is the edge of my window? There it is. All right, that's a lot more Collins than anybody else. So I'm going to start with Collins. Let's make sure this is on the screen. Perfect. Make sure this is on the screen. All right, you guys don't need to see those plus buttons. You just want value. Perfect. All right, John Collins it is. Welcome to the captain spot, John Collins. Now let's load it up. Let's see what the different constructions can be. So we've got John Collins. By all accounts, we're going to need one of Luka or Kyrie. Now, Luka projects as a better value at 13K than Kyrie does at 10.4. So Luka Doncic, come on down. Now I'm going to just sort by value. We've got Maxey as the best value and relatively low owned. He is going to be a bit of a linchpin here. Also someone that scares me a little bit. He has been back for a couple games and just not in the rotation. So it's a little nerve-wracking. So I'm actually going to go to Jaden Hardy first and then see, you know what? Let's just put Maxey in for the example. It doesn't matter if this is right now. The example is what we're really looking for. So let's get Maxey in as that value play. I think Derek Lively would be next. I'm going to stave off of Hardy and Grimes right now because I don't think we're going to need the salary savings. Kind of feels like we can get... If we go Kyrie, we're going to be dangerously close to Markkanen. Yeah, just slightly not enough. So let's just get one in. If we go Markkanen, the next best guy we can only get to is Gafford, and that would leave 3,800 on the table. let's see what that looks like. So this should be an awful lineup. I think we're leaving way too much salary on the table. 214. Yeah, look at that. Negative 85. That's good. That's good. Because now we can start to look at see what improves that. And the very clear spot is going to be we have 4,800 to spend over Maxi Kleber. So think about it like this. We know the points are at 214 and the ownership is at 234. If we remove Maxi and add in the best guy we can get to, which is Kyle Filipowski, we have now increased projection by 11 fantasy points. And we've increased ownership by 17 points. This is going to go, and now we're spending the whole freight. This is going to go from negative 80 whatever to way better than that. Just by default. Because there we go. Now we're up to 11%. It's that easy to just spot errors. Now, I think the real issue here is the final two pieces. So I'm going to walk back the Maxi Kleber play and put him back in. But now, instead of going to Markkanen, I'm going to go to Kyrie. That leaves us 8,200 for the final spot, which can be Daniel Gafford. So remember, when this was Markkanen, it was 3,800 left. When it's Kyrie, it's 2,200 left. Now, this is going to be too much ownership, but the fantasy points will improve. I'm expecting like negative 10, negative 20. Okay, negative 45. I like where we're at right now because now we know what some of our goals are for fantasy points and for ownership. The first couple lineups you run are a fact-finding mission. So what we really know is that fantasy points likely need to be in that like high 220, low 230 range. And then we're going to start playing around with ownership. So we have the Collins captain. We go to Luka first. I think I want to test out a second pay down, but that might funnel us right to Kyrie, Markkanen, and Cody Williams. So look at that right there. 217 fantasy point projection, lower than we were at. But we did give it a gigantic ownership haircut down to 209. So we got to learn this sort of push and pull a little bit. Is that too little of fantasy points? It is. We need to acquire more fantasy points, and we have the ability to do that with not really having to care too much about ownership. So what happens if I pull Quentin Grimes? Is there a better 3K version? And right away, you can see it. We had Quentin Grimes, but we have enough salary to gain almost 3 fantasy points, 2 and change, with Jaden Hardy. So like just that alone will improve the lineup. It's still not going to be very good though. See, still negative 38. So the priority needs to be acquiring, I'm going to sneeze. We are not acquiring nearly enough fantasy points. That was a powerful sneeze. Normally they come out in 2s for me, but that was just 1 and done. It just needed to get out of my body. So raw fantasy points are the thing we're missing out on most. And this is how you can get to it. By grabbing the best highly projected guys that are also values. So that would be Derek Lively at a 28 projection. I actually think it might be Daniel Gafford as well. Then we need to find the one value piece that helps us, and we fill out with whatever is left. It does kind of feel like Cody Williams is interesting here, because while you're spending $1,000 less to get the Jaden Hardy for a similar projection, you are getting a giant discount in ownership, and those first 4 guys are pretty heavily owned. So when Cody Williams goes in, it leaves us 10-8 for our final guy, which fits Kyrie Irving perfectly, leaves us 400. And now you can see 227 projection, 242 ownership. We've gained 5 fantasy points and barely moved the ownership. This will be the best lineup we've built so far. And there we go. We got to our 21%. Still not very good. That could be a John Collins thing. But now we know what our thresholds are. And I think that's really important for this structure. The things that you want to get in these lineups can easily be changed. Maybe it's not Gafford. Maybe this is where, like, let's see the impact of it not Gafford. Maybe it's not. Maybe we try out the Jaden Hardy piece along with Kyrie. Because now we take on a little bit of additional ownership. We're down to 1,400 left over. We did increase ownership by 14%, and we did come down in fantasy points. This should be worse. Should be worse. We shall see. Yeah. So we got to negative 14. What that's leading me to think is that the pay up to Kyrie and the punt of a value isn't necessarily what we need. So we have 6,800 for each player for these final 2 spots. And I think balancing it out is a little bit more interesting. So maybe that ends up being Najee Marshall and Markkanen. 225 fantasy projection, 253. Now that even takes us down. We lose a little bit more efficiency. It's a tricky slate so far. Clay? Be Clay plus Clarkson? These are getting worse and worse. What I'm seeing while we build this is that I don't really like John Collins captain constructions. Yeah, negative 15. Not loving the John Collins captain construction. But now we're just going hardcore. Luka in, Kyrie in. Let's spend quite a bit here. We'll get Lively in. We have 4,600 for each guy remaining. Oh, that could have been so close for Najee Marshall plus Kyle Filipowski. We go Filipowski, Cody Williams, 218. Look how much that dropped that projection. It's hard to get to the payups. I think this is a John Collins problem. And I'll show why in a second. This is what happens if you use Luka Doncic at captain for today. So naturally, we're going to need a value play just because of the amount of salary he's going to take up. I think pretty quickly that needs to be Maxi Kleba. Now, I will use John Collins in this lineup. And I think the next guy that we look at is probably Derek Lively. And now we have 2 picks left, 8K per. So that can be Markkanen and Sexton, $100 left, 225 and 223. Look at how we were able to take down that ownership number and not really impact our fantasy. My expectation is that this is the best one we've seen. Barely. But we're getting warmer on the DraftKings side. We're getting warmer. Let's walk back the Markkanen and Sexton combo. Can we do it with Kyrie? We can. We can do Kyrie Filipowski. Slightly lower ownership, slightly lower projection. Maybe that combo is not what we really want. Marketing Clarkson could be a little interesting if you wanted to discount ownership, 223 and 219. This will probably still be in that like 20s range. By the way, how the hell did the Blazers beat the Wolves on a back-to-back in both games? We didn't talk about that to start the show. Wow, 1.9. Okay. Now I'm starting to think that we just have an incredibly difficult slate. Maybe it's not Lively. Maybe Lively's not the guy there. Good value. But tricky? Maybe it's Cody Williams. Because then Cody Williams can unlock Kyrie plus Gafford. 219 and 204. Probably too much. What if that's Markkanen? No, that's where the hole is. The hole is between Markkanen and everybody else. There's a chasm there in salary. And I think that's what's causing our issues. Because like Keontae George at 7,600 looks pretty bad. Sexton at 7,200 looks okay. That area is where we're ending up running into major issues. 211, 187. I mean, this is going to not look good, but we have been able to cut out a giant chunk of ownership. Walker? NBA fan. Do you mean Kessler? Yeah, see how bad that is? The Jazz are so awful. Let's pull the Cody Williams. Go back to Derek Lively. 8K per. That can get us Gafford Markkanen. Did I run that already? That's going to be too much ownership. Gotcha, NBA fan. Yeah, negative 18. The Czar is struggling. So now the Czar is not going to take your suggestions. The Czar is just going to build. The Czar is going to build. And we're going to do that by putting Kyrie Irving in the captain spot. Which will lead us to Derek Lively. Which will lead us to John Collins. Let's get Markkanen. We're going to see what we can do if we don't have Luka Doncic in the lineup. Gafford Filipowski, 215, 241. Nope, that ain't it. Not even close. It might be hard to get there without Luka. Luka in. That's 3 down. Maybe we need the 5-1. Kyrie, Lively, Luka, Gafford. Maxey and the best 9K guy. That gives us one off Markkanen. 226, 4, 230. Tricky slate. Tricky slate. I like this. I love when it's tough. We can't bust 22% yet. Oh, now we did. See what happens when I just do what I'm supposed to do? 56.7. Now we're talking. 226.4, 230.8, 56 points. So you see what happens when I can just do what I need to do? All we do is nail it. All we do is nail it. 3 best pay-up options that you can get to. Lively, Gafford, and Maxey. Not too shabby. We could probably do better. I know the Maxey value and ownership is carrying a lot of weight there. What happens if it's Jaden Hardy? That makes us get to John Collins. 231. See the increase to that fantasy point projection? We went up 4 fantasy points by swapping that 2v2. We also took on 26% more ownership. This will be an interesting dynamic. Do the fantasy points help us? They sure do. They sure do. 230.9. 256.9. 72.7. The czar's in the building, folks. Sometimes you just got to let me rip. I can't be shackled down by all your constraints. I got to fly free. I'm a bird here. Speaking of a bird, I have a picture that I took from a vacation in Ireland. Got a 50-inch ultra-wide monitor. Picture looks great. But in the skyline, there is one bird ultra far in the distance in the right corner of my screen, and it's just small enough that it looks like dead pixels. And every day I look at it, I think it's dead pixels, but it just happens to be the single bird in my view. All right. We got DraftKings built. Hit that like button if you're here. Let's test out FanDuel for the FanDuel crazies. Now, I don't love the FanDuel single game product. I got to be honest. I don't like the MVP Star Pro thing. They should make it 6 guys. There's just too much duplication at FanDuel. Let me find out the payout structure for whatever FanDuel has as the main. Exactly. I'm a peacock. You got to let me fly. Noted flying bird. Okay, so the main contest today for Dallas and Utah. So 20% payout. Let's do it. Now, these are the spots where it gets weird because it gets really hard to avoid the best guys because of the lack of increase to salary for going into the MVP star and pro spot. The best way to get unique here is basically like using people in spots you wouldn't necessarily expect. I'm going to try to do this without Luka, but I think that's going to fail. He's the best value. I'm going to go Markkanen MVP, Luka in the star, Derek Lively in the pro? No. Klay Thompson in the pro. And that leaves me 10K at utility for both spots. Which feels like Daniel Gafford and Keontae George. I have very little confidence here. That's going to be 174, 84. And this is our first run on FanDuel. Negative 42. I am not surprised. We spent the full salary and we aren't exactly cost efficient for what we're doing. So let's look at what the value looks like on FanDuel. The number one value option is Daniel Gafford at essentially zero ownership for 8,500. Tango, that went exactly like I thought it would. I knew that one was way under projected. So it feels like a Gafford utility play has to exist. Luka is the best value MVP. Kyrie is quite a bit ahead of Markkanen. So it's the pro spot that becomes difficult. But look at the difference here in that change of Luka, Kyrie, Klay, Gafford, Sexton. We gained 11 fantasy points because of Luka being in that MVP spot. That puts it into perspective of how far you're able to really get away from the top end. So we gain 11 fantasy points, but we only gained 10 ownership points. I expect this one to look okay to decent. Exactly. 45% ROI. So that's a decent start on the FanDuel side. It leaves out Markkanen. It's a 4-1 for Dallas. Feels a little star heavy, but it also puts us in a kind of weird position to figure out what we want to do elsewhere. Like, we went to Clay. I think there's a case to be made to go to Lively in the pro spot. I do kind of want to maintain the Daniel Gafford utility information, which gives us 9,500 for the final spot. That can be Klay Thompson. So that does... Oh, that's a full Dallas lineup. Tried to run the old 5-0. So that's got to be Kyle Filipowski then. 180.4. So we lose 5 fantasy points. But we also lose 18 ownership points. That's the thing you want to pay attention to here. How does that experience change? How do we value fantasy points versus ownership in this spot? Because we're giving back 5, but we're doing it at a pretty sizable discount to the ownership of the lineup. This will kind of point us in the direction of what a fantasy point is worth. And there you go. That ownership discount was more valuable than the 5-point reduction in fantasy points. Because now we go down to 80.4, 76.1, and 54% simulated ROI. I wonder if there's a better combination than Gafford and Filipowski because of Gafford's ownership in the utility spot. He's clearly the best value, but it makes me wonder if we can be a little bit better with it. Like, what is... I mean, we could... Did I do Clay? Oh, you can't do Clay Gafford. What if it's Clay Filipowski? So we drop another 5 points and another 11 in ownership. Now, my expectation is that we're now too far away in fantasy points, and this one gets worse. Yeah, it did. There comes a level from dropping in fantasy points where you're giving up too much no matter what your ownership discount ends up being. Is there an alternative pro option? Actually, let's see if what we can do now with Luka in the MVP, and we leave out Kyrie in lieu of Markkanen. So we get Markkanen in at the star. I'm going to go back to Derek Lively at the pro, and that gives us 9,500 a pop for the 2 utility spots. If we go Gafford, it leaves us a hole of $1,500. I don't like leaving that much salary on the table on FanDuel. And we take on a very big ownership hit. So I think the play here is to actually avoid Gafford now in this construction. Now, if we go to Kyrie, which would be very weird, we don't even have anybody. So Kyrie is unrosterable in this particular lineup. John Collins does give us the ability to get Maxi Kleba. But look at that fantasy point projection and look at the ownership. We gave up 16 fantasy points, but we're down to 20. That's not the correct number. Oh, that's total ownership. Got it. This has to be way too many fantasy points given up. Yeah, negative 20. Not surprised. So it can't be Collins. We need more savings in the utility. That's immediately, to me, Colin Sexton. And then I got to take a screenshot of this. I feel like that aggregate ownership number is too high. Where can I paste that? Actually, I don't have to paste it anywhere. Nope. Had the screenshot right the first time. Boswald, I'll check that out. So we have 8K for this final spot. The highest projected guy at 8K is Najee Marshall. So now we're spending the full salary. We're at 167 and 65. This is going to be negative too. Josh, super curious. What happens if you all out punt one utility spot with a fringe rotation dude? Do you just auto lose with a construction like that? Probably yes. So let's look at it for a second. I assume the type of guy you're talking about here is like, honestly, like I guess like Maxey would be the guy that you're talking about. We're not totally confident that he's going to be in the rotation. He is the lowest salary you can get to. So someone like Maxey would be the dude you're looking for. And that would leave us enough salary to go to John Collins. Yeah, negative 14. It's probably pretty hard just because of how low his fantasy points are. You're backing it up with the ownership. But I'm not entirely sure there's much we can do. Maybe it's upgrading the pro spot from Lively. So Lively is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's the 6th highest projected guy at 10.5. But in theory, we can get Daniel Gafford in at the pro spot. And then leave us enough to get to Kyrie. It only gets you to 12. It does feel like a situation where, at least for this case, you're giving up too many fantasy points that you don't have to give up. Like, even if I just remove that right now, you can see that Maxey is the highest projected guy. But if I just downgrade a little bit from Kyrie Irving, let's say we wanted Collins. Like, that opens up Najee Marshall at 10.5 more fantasy points than Maxi Kleba. And it just completely changes the structure of these lineups. Yeah, still super negative. All right, you guys want me to build the true best lineup we can on FanDuel before we get out of here? Oh my God, it's 6:49. I'm going to do the full hour? God, I'm dumb. Let's do the final FanDuel lineup and let's get out of here. You're going to get live before lock later tonight as well. Let me confirm that and let me confirm the time. Schedule for the rest of the day. Let me make sure everybody has what they need here. NFL strategy show coming up next at 10:15. NHL strategy show at 2:30 today. That's half hour later than it normally is. Fuck me. NFL live before lock at 7:15. You get Greg and Laffy. And then I will be back with Eric tonight at 8:15. 45-minute live before lock. Myself and Eric haven't done a show together in a while, so that'll be fun. We're going to break this one down in much bigger detail than what you're going to get at 9 o'clock in the morning. So still we have a jam-packed schedule for you guys today. You don't want to miss it. So let me build what I believe will be the best FanDuel lineup I can build. I think in order to get slightly different, it has to be Kyrie into the captain or into the MVP spot. At which point, then I'm going to go to Luka Doncic in the star. And I'm going to get John Collins in the pro. Does leave us a real tricky situation for value here. I think we go... Jaden Hardy and Najee Marshall. Ooh, I am not super confident this is going to be good. Yeah, I didn't think so. It's the John Collins piece. Too expensive there. Highest owned pro spot is Gafford. Collins is second. So I think it has to be Gafford to allow us to have the salary to pay for real people at the utility, which would be Clay and Sexton? Clay and Lively, which is the full run out Dallas. So then it has to be Clay and Sexton. Does that get us anything good? Ooh, Aquarius, I like that. Izzy, yeah, but it's going to be quick. Way quicker than this. All right, maybe I don't have the direct path to the nuts. Just out of curiosity, flipping Luka and Kyrie will dramatically increase the projection. But I think this might be the build. There it is. We close on a dub, baby. 76.1% ROI. Luka, Kyrie, Gafford, Clay, and Colin Sexton. We're packing it in, but I will see you guys later tonight for NBA Live Before Lock at a crisp 8:15 start time. Have some fun today. Get your bearings together. NBA Cup is tomorrow.